Welcome back to Exotic Car Play Place, everybody. Thanks for joining in again today. And today we have this E70 X5 diesel. Now it has the rear air springs, and I've already replaced them once, and here we are, we're leaking again. So as you can see, I've got the car jacked up. I'm going to do a full conversion today. We're going to get rid of the air springs and put conventional coil springs in the back. So follow along. Great do-it-yourself. Let's get into it now. So the first thing is you jack the car up. Securely put jack stands underneath the car right there. That's the safest way, of course, always. And then we're going to start undoing the bolts. We'll start on one side. Crack the bolts. And chances are probably going to be seized. Might have to lightly give it a few hits from the back side of the wheel. Okay, so we got the wheel off now. Now you'll notice down here I already pre-sprayed, but you want to use some of this liquid wrench, WD-40, but this stuff works really well. So you want to use some of this, give it a spray so it's easy to crack the nuts, and then we want to pull on this. There we are. So the next thing you want to do is go in through the trunk. I've already lifted out that panel that comes here. You want to disconnect the battery. So there's a bunch of little screws you have to undo here. Let's just undo all these screws, get them out of the way so we can undo the negative terminal on the battery. So that's what you got to do next. So now we'll lift it up. Now that we got the screws disconnected, pull it out. So what we're going to do is we'll just disconnect the negative terminal here. We'll leave all this malarkey alone. We'll just disconnect the negative just so the pump doesn't run, so we don't have an air compressor start up on us. Looks like a 10mm wrench will work just fine down here. Let's undo that. Alright, there we are. Now we shouldn't have any issues with pumps and the air compressor, which is over there on the passenger, underneath the passenger side. That compressor shouldn't run now, pumping air over to the airbags, which we're trying to disconnect now. Now use a pry bar or something like this. It's a really long screwdriver. You want to get underneath this and give this a good pop, because it's got to pop out from underneath here. There's a bit of a gap there, you could see. So you got to get it out of there. Then you got to give this a twist. Simple as that. The old airbag is pretty much out. Now we have to undo that. So we're going to get a wrench to undo the air line on the left side. Now you got to be careful because there could still be some trapped air in these bags here. So I know mine's kind of worn out and it's lost all its air. It's been sitting for a few days. But be careful. You want to crack these lines very carefully. You can also disconnect them over at the compressor, which again is underneath the passenger side. You got to take some plastic off the bottom of the car to expose these two lines, but you can crack them there. So we'll use a 10mm wrench, same as we used for the battery. And we're going to slowly crack it and see if there's any air left. So next what I'm going to do, I just cut it out of the airbag, and now I'm just going to tape this off in case I ever decide to reuse it. I want to make sure I don't get moisture in the end of the line here. Not likely we'll ever revert back, but you never know. Let's just tape it off. At least it gives you the option for the future. There. I'm going to get a jack in here, and I'm going to try to jack this, separate this, give us a little extra room. So I got this little utility jack from another car, and we're just going to set it on there. And be careful, there's some spring tension there now, so watch where you stick your fingers. As long as you have this in there, it could be a hazard. Now as you can see, we got the old airbag on the ground here, And we got the new spring. Now if you look at the distance we have to make up, we have to gain another 3 inches or so here just to be able to either compress it or get that suspension pushed down so that we can get this spring shoehorned in there. So we're going to take this mount here and we're going to undo this, because this we're going to mount at the bottom hub here. So let's undo this for now. Okay, so we're going to take, we've got a couple ends. We've just got this floater here and we're going to put him at the top. The top, normally on the other ones, on the air springs, all it is a push and a turn, quarter turn, and it's just plastic. It sort of dangles there. What actually locks is down here at the bottom. That's where you pull the bag and it snaps down. So I take it as a bottom mount. So I'm going to put this up and just let it sort of sit up there. And this is just an isolating bushing right here. So I'm going to put the isolator bushing on this side, and I'm going to mount this guy, push him in the other end here. It's a little snugger on the bottom, just so it holds it centered. This has to move anyway. As a coil compresses, it has to turn. It has to have some free movement at one end. If you tighten them both ends, you can get binding in your spring. So one end has to be secured, the other end kind of floats, like we're going to have here. So we're going to try to shoehorn this up. We're going to crank this up, get that control arm down, and then we'll try to shoehorn this up in there. Try to put him up in there. So we got the spring in there. Now we're going to back this jack off here so it can tighten up. Now we got to run the bolt up through the bottom, and we'll see if we can do that. This has to go up through the bottom underneath, and then we're going to bolt up nuts, washers, everything from the top through the coil. Now what we're going to do is we have to get the swing arm back up to the strut or to the shock. So we're going to crank this up. I've got this jack underneath here, not on the disc, of course, that would be bad. So we're just bringing this up. There we go. Now we got this wonderful little bolt. Feed that back through and get it started. So really that's all there is left, is you put that bolt through the bottom, you spin the nut on the top, torque it up, or really just get a good wrench on it and suck it down, because it's a bushing, so it's going to have some flex, but get a little bit of meat on it, and then you're good to go. So once that's all done, bolt up your shock, put your wheel back on, lower it down, and just repeat on the other side. It was actually quite simple. Be very, very cautious when you're using spring compressors. I didn't have to use a spring compressor. That's the beautiful thing. So the other thing you have left to do before you connect the battery is pull the fuse. It's fuse number F32, and it's a 40 amp fuse, and that's actually located under the glove box. So you have to go to the lower shroud on the passenger side of the car. You pull the fuse block down, and then you'll notice on the right hand side, on the first bank of fuses, there's a 40 amp at the back on the right hand side. Pull that fuse out. That's F32, and that's going to shut off the compressor so you don't have a compressor run once you fire up the battery. So you do that, pull that fuse, button that all up, connect the battery, start the car, and you should be good to go. And you'll have a few different faults, but those faults will clear very, very shortly after a quick drive, and then the car looks like a thing of beauty. Here, let me show you how the car looks now. Be sure to click on the subscribe button below. I'm sure you're going to love everything that I have to offer on the channel. Lots of great automotive content. Really hope to see you soon. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.